And I really just hope that you feel encouraged and less intimidated by inviting people over into your home, because it is such a blessing to be able to invite people into your home and make them feel loved and cared for. Hey friends, it is Amanda from the blog Faith and Home. Happy Thanksgiving. It's just right around the corner. This is going to be going up Wednesday, so the day before Thanksgiving. But happy hosting, happy holidays. I love Thanksgiving. I love the holidays. I love hosting, as you guys can probably imagine, because I am finishing up my 3-part series on hosting, how to do it when you're on a budget, and then etiquette for being a guest. And today we're going over etiquette of being a host and how to be a good host, and just some simple tips and tricks to make it more enjoyable for you and your guests. So truth be told, growing up, my mom was always a good homemaker. She went back and forth from being a single mom to being not a single mom, and we were in a family, but when she was able to stay home and not work, she was always a great homemaker. But I feel like she didn't share all her tips with me. And so when I got married and had moved out of the house, went to college, then got married, I was kind of at a loss when we had people over. It was just something that was new and overwhelming. Exciting, because I do like opening up my home and making a special atmosphere in my home and like getting ready. I like those kind of things. They're just fun to me, but it was still overwhelming because I just didn't know how to be good at it. So it's just that inspired today's video. If you guys are just dipping your toes into the water of the hosting world and inviting people into your home, I wanted to share some of the tips that I've learned throughout this time, and some tips that I've learned from other women who have graciously taught me, and just help you get a little bit of a head start and start your hosting journey on the right foot. Or maybe you've been hosting for a long time, but you are just wondering if there's any tips and tricks out there that you are missing. Hopefully this video might give you a new tip or trick. So first off, we're gonna talk about all the prep work. What do you do before your guests step in the door? This is a time where you're hustling and bustling, getting everything ready, but there are a few things that are important to keep in mind to make sure that you're prepared and the evening goes as smoothly as possible. 1, make sure you know if your guests have any allergies. This is a super big deal, especially nowadays. I feel like people have so many food sensitivities and allergies. I don't know if it was always that way or if it's just like a newer thing with all our processed foods, but people just have a lot of food sensitivities. So text your guests. This is probably going to be something that you want to do a few days in advance before you go grocery shopping for that week or that night. Text your guests and see if they have any food sensitivities that you need to be aware of while you're cooking your dish. This is definitely going to let you know what to stay away from. It's always terrible to prepare a meal for a family and then someone like ends up going hungry because they can't eat half of it. The second thing that is super crucial before your guests come, kind of around the same time of you asking about food allergies, you can let them know what you're bringing, and if they want to bring a side item, offer what would be a good side item. My third tip is that once you know their food restrictions, you know what they're going to bring and contribute. When you are considering what you want to make for your guest, consider trying to make something that you've made before and you know you will enjoy. Now, of course, depending on your guest's food restrictions, you just may not have cooked how you are going to need to for this family coming over, or maybe you're like super new to cooking and so there's not really very many recipes that you've tried that you feel confident in. So feel free to branch out, of course. This is not a rule that you have to stick to, but it does definitely make it way less stressful if you're the host, to be cooking a meal that you're comfortable cooking and that you know is going to turn out well. It's going to take your stress levels way down. So if you can, definitely try to do that, but don't feel like this is a rule that you have to stick to. You can branch out and try something new. If your guest eats a certain way that you never cook, like gluten-free, and you always have grains and all that kind of stuff in your dishes, then don't feel bad. You know, you are going out of your way to accommodate them, and there's nothing wrong with that. And if you just want to try something new, totally go for it. It just can be a little bit more stressful, and it's hard to know if that meal is actually going to take the time that the recipe says, versus if you have a go-to meal, you know how long it takes, so you know when to start it and how to better prepare for it. Along with choosing the meal, make more than you think you need. It's so hard to know what other people's normal size portions of food are, because people just eat so dramatically differently from household to household. I really have noticed this. I'll go to certain places and eat dinner, and sometimes I'll leave feeling a little hungry still, and I'll come back home and snack. And I still had a great time. It did not affect, you know, the time that I had or the fellowship that we had together. But it is always nice to just make sure that you have more than enough food. And if you end up having leftovers, no big deal, right? Like, leftovers are great. That means lunch tomorrow. So I have no problem having leftovers the next day. A good rule of thumb is try to do like 1.5 servings for each person. I feel like everyone eats more than an actual serving size, or like whatever your family serving size is, do 1.5 times that for each like person that is coming, just to be on the safe side. It is never bad to have leftovers, and a lot of times people will even like stuff themselves full because they think your cooking is so great, and what a compliment. So having the option for them to go back and get seconds is always really nice. Okay, we're gonna talk about a few things around the house that you can do quickly to just make it easier for you throughout the night when your guests are here and you're enjoying your company. Like, how are you gonna make the home homey? How are you gonna make it cozy for them and clean? And especially if you're kind of in a rush, what are some things you can do? So first thing, make sure that your dishwasher is empty, or as empty as it can be. Definitely empty by the time you start cooking, so then all your dishes from dinner can go into the dishwasher. That is like the number one thing that I always try to have done, even if I'm just cooking for Adam and I. It is really nice when at the end of the night, I can throw everything in the dishwasher, start it, and I don't have to hand wash a ton of dishes if I want to clean up the kitchen. So that's just a really great way to make your load easier. So even if your dishwasher is only halfway full in the middle of the afternoon or morning, I would just say start it. And then that way, before you start making dinner, you can unload it. And after dinner, you'll have an empty dishwasher to load all the dirty dishes from dinner in. And that's just a way to make it less stressful on you. You won't have to unload it and load it too, or you won't have to wait to just fill up the other half and then wait on all the other dishes tomorrow. It just makes things way easier. My next tip is that even if you don't have a ton of time to clean up for your guests, focus on the main areas that your guests are going to be. So do a quick wipe off in your bathroom. You know, you can even just put some hand soap in between your hands, get them wet, and scrub out the sink with your hands really quick. And then do a quick scrub in the toilet if it's needed. And then pick up any clutter in the living spaces that your guest will be and do some maybe light dusting. You don't have to go crazy, but just pick things up so there's no clutter. Clutter makes the biggest difference for a house looking super messy. So focus on the clutter, and then if you have time, focus on the more deep cleaning. But definitely do the high traffic areas. Bathroom, dinner table, like kitchen, try to make it somewhat relaxing and picked up. It doesn't have to be deep cleaned by any means if you don't have time, but just picking up the extra toys or the things that have accumulated throughout the day, it makes a huge difference in how your home looks. Another thing that I love to do before my guests get here is I love to set the table. Now this will look different depending on what kind of meal I make. Sometimes I'll have plates that are on the counter because I want my guests to self-serve themselves. But sometimes we'll do family style and I'll be bringing the meals to the table, or I'll serve all the plates and I'll end up putting them on the table and then having everyone gather and eat or whatever. So setting the table can look a little bit different, but what I do make sure, or try to make sure, that is always on the table by the time my guests get here is napkins. They can be cloth, they can be paper, it doesn't matter, just something for your guests to use. And then I also try to do silverware, cups, and a pitcher of water, or filling up the cups with water before they get here. I love having cups with water or the pitcher full of water before guests get here, especially because then you don't have to worry about offering your guests water when they get here. And that can take away time if you're needing to do some last minute touches on your dish or you're trying to serve or whatever. It is just nice to be like, hey, water's on the table, feel free to grab one. Then it's already ready and you don't have to be worrying about that as people walk in. Another tip that is really awesome to do before your guests arrive is start making your home environment how you want it. So if you have a light music playlist that you want to play, so there's some background noise when your guests come, put that on, get it to the level of volume that you want before your guests arrive. Then you just aren't messing with like volume controls and all that kind of stuff when your guests get here. So if you can do that beforehand, that's always really nice. And then another thing is lighting candles, or maybe doing an air spray or essential oils, just getting your home to smell how you want it to. I especially love spritzing some essential oils in my downstairs bathroom because I want it to smell like I just got done deep cleaning it. Even if I was just able to, rinse out the sink and switch out the hand towel. So that's just a good tip, is that typically if something smells fresh, people are going to think it's cleaner than it is too. And if you get your home smelling like warm and inviting with maybe like, I love citrus scents, or you could do whatever you like. It's just really nice to walk into an environment that smells nice and it makes you think it's cleaner and homier than it may actually be. The last tip that I think is super crucial to do before your guests come is to come with conversation in mind and be prepared to be intentional. So I've talked about this before. Fellowship is super important to me. I think it's just an important principle for all Christians. But I don't like to just have shallow relationships with people. I really try to dig deep. And one of the ways to encourage deep relationship is actually taking time to be intentional with what you want to talk about that night. And that doesn't mean that you have a schedule of all your talking points that you have to go throughout the night. That just means like, thinking, oh, is there anything that we talked about recently with this couple or this person or all these people that are coming over that I want to follow up with them throughout the night and see how they're doing in those areas? Or are there any like heart questions that I want to prompt, or is there any like just way that I can feed into them and encourage them with what I know is going on? This is also really good when you're getting to know someone, just to have one or two backup questions that you can ask if the conversation is like dead and you feel super awkward. So just having like a few things in the back of your mind that are your go-to, like, okay, if we just don't start flowing naturally, these are things that I want to talk about with this person, is super helpful, especially if you're an introvert like me. I know it might sound super nerdy to even do any planning with conversation at all, but it is really helpful, especially if you are introverted, like I said, or maybe you typically have a little bit of social anxiety or any of those things. Just kind of having a few go-to fallback things to be asking those people if it doesn't naturally occur or go where you want it to is always really nice. So you guys, I totally fibbed. I think I said my last tip was my last tip for before your guests actually arrive, but I have one more. And this is like 5 to 10 minutes before your guests arrive. Try to have your meal done prior to that. The reason being is a lot of people are so scrambled up to the last minute with food that they don't have time to, tidy the kitchen or tidy themselves and freshen themselves up. And so it's just a lot more relaxing for yourself as the host to have 5 to 10 minutes to gather yourself and get either the house how you want it or your appearance how you want it before your guests arrive. Now for hosting, I feel like most of the work is actually done prior to your guest arriving. So I only have a couple tips for you guys once your guests are actually present. So the first tip is to accept help. So if your guest offer to help you with anything, don't feel like you're being a bad host if you say no. Now, if you literally just don't want them to and you're totally just want to take care of it and don't have them worry about it, then you're not being a terrible person by rejecting their help. You can say no, but no, people like to help. It's not a big deal, and you are totally not a bad host by accepting someone's help. So if you're a little bit behind in the kitchen, or at the end of the night, if you're putting away dishes and people offer to help put away the dishes, any of those kind of things, feel free to say yes. It does not make you a bad host. People actually feel really good about helping people. My next tip is along the same lines. Don't feel like you need to clean up while your guests are here. If you really want to, then go ahead. But I personally prefer to just maybe tidy up the table, take all the dishes to the sink, and then do the rest of the cleaning once my guests have left. Now that is unless one of my guests already starts by helping me clean and doing dishes, and whatever, I'll accept the help, that's great. But I don't want to make them feel awkward by them being at the dinner table while I'm trying to clean up the kitchen. I will just take the dishes, put them in the sink, and then if there's any meats or something that is like perishable and needs to be refrigerated, I will put all the leftovers in the fridge and then come back to the table and enjoy my time with guests. That's just me personally. If you really feel the need to clean while your guests are there, you can. It just kind of takes away from the experience, but whatever is going to relax you, your guests also don't want their host to be stressed. Then my last tip is super simple. Just make sure that just like you greet your guests when they come, you are walking them out to the door and saying goodbye, giving them hugs, and telling them that you've really enjoyed your time with them. Just making them feel special and cared for by walking them out and saying your goodbyes is a great way to end the night. That is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed and that this video really encouraged you and made hosting less intimidating. Because honestly, the majority of these tips are for the host and for you to not be stressed out about hosting, just making it an enjoyable experience. And really that just comes with being prepared and knowing what to do. And I feel like the more I host, the more comfortable I am with knowing the steps that it takes. So having that practice just makes it easier. So hopefully these tips give you a head start if you're new to hosting. And I really just hope that you feel encouraged and less intimidated by inviting people over into your home, because it is such a blessing to be able to invite people into your home and make them feel loved and cared for. Anyways, that is it for today's video. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. That really helps these videos get seen by more people. And then don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell down below so you get notified next time I post a video. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.